Welcome again, everybody. And we have a
Mhm.
couple new faces, someone that we saw for a moment and then went away. Welcome. All
Sorry.
right. No problem. Welcome. We're just glad you got to join us today. All right. So my name again is Emily Smart, and I am the filmmaker liaison for Filmmaker Success. And at Filmmaker Success, we like to make movies, make money, and make the world a better place. I'm going to do Joanne's intro again for those who are new today. The person teaching the class today is Joanne Butcher. She's a consulting producer with over 100 independent filmmakers under her belt. With a wealth of experience in fundraising and distribution, Joanne has a proven track record of facilitating the sale of numerous feature films and participating in the distribution of 20 features. As an expert in fundraising, Joanne has supported her clients through various channels, including major donors, grants, foundations, corporate sponsorships, and over 40 successful crowdfunding campaigns. Her involvements with organizations such as Brown Girls Doc Mafia, Slam Dance, the Brazilian Film Festival in Miami, and the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival have made her an integral part of the filmmaking community. As the founder of Unstoppable, a disability film festival, and a frequent judge at the Forever Foundation, Joanne is dedicated to mentoring and developing the careers of young creatives. Joanne's experience extends beyond fundraising and distribution, as she has directed a First Run Cinema and a film school in Miami Beach, Florida, where she created the Florida Feature Film Competition. The competition has provided filmmakers with a platform to uplevel their business and marketing packages while competing for a $200,000 prize. With 143 feature films in various stages of development, from script to distribution, Joanne's specialty lies in helping filmmakers raise funds to get their projects made and distributed globally. Her extensive network and expertise in the film industry make her the go-to consultant for independent filmmakers seeking support with fundraising and distribution. All right, so let's welcome Joanne.
Thank you so much, Emily. Hi, everybody. I am always so grateful when you do that intro because it gives me a little minute to just take a breath and get centered, even though I've had a pretty centering day today, but welcome. Now, yesterday we had, on the one hand, we had a very small group, which is always lovely because then we get more into everybody's projects. And we discovered that pretty much everybody was in a different country around the world. So we now have a couple of new people, Retamosa, Clarissa. Maybe Clarissa is your first name.
Yes.
But so I want to see now, where is Clarissa your first name?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So now where in the world are you from? I want to see if we're going to keep up this worldwide thing.
So I'm originally from Santa Cruz, California. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. So I've traveled a lot. I've lived in North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Korea. Spent 5 months in Egypt. So, I've been a little bit
All
of
over.
a little bit.
Now where are you from? Now where are you?
Now I'm based out of Miami Beach, Florida at the moment. Yeah. I'm your neighbor.
Wow. Okay, so I didn't get another country, but your name is pretty fabulous. All right, so Miami Beach, and I'm not in Miami Beach right now, so I'm in Trinidad and Tobago. And Rebecca, where are you calling from? Good to see you. Long time no see. Oh, I'm
Oh,
not
it's been a while. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Hi.
no.
Yes, it has been a minute, hasn't it?
Yes.
I'm in Silicon Valley, US. Cupertino, home of Apple headquarters, hailing from the West Coast. So
Very nice.
yeah,
Very
it's
nice.
really good to see you. I was excited. I'm sorry I missed yesterday, but I was booked doing what I do, which you know what I do. I help people do we do similar things. We support filmmakers making their dreams and their stories come to life. So
Well, good
yeah.
to see you. Good to have you. All right. So now, Clarissa and Rebecca, you didn't know what our homework was yesterday, but everybody yesterday had some homework to do. So we're going to see how that went. And actually, just to summarize, oh, you know what? I was hoping, who is our lady who joined us right at the end? She's not here. I hope she's okay. So what we did yesterday, to just do a little summary, was we looked a lot at deeply into distribution. And I had realized that I called the class From Finance to Distribution, but I realized that the truth is, the way I think about it is always to start with distribution. So we started looking at distribution, and then we went through all of the different windows. And the reason I did that is because filmmakers often are not thinking about where the income comes from a film when you actually have made a film. And so we looked at the fact that there are these sequential windows that traditionally have been theatrical, then transactional video on demand, then subscription video on demand, then AVOD, which is advertising supported video on demand. And there are a couple of other ancillary windows that do go along at the same time, but traditionally there's this sequential thing. And so a film is a very, very, very special commodity in that you can sell it and sell it and sell it and sell it again and sell it again and sell it again. So we were just kind of, exploring deeply that concept. And we ended up looking at the very basic marketing. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing my Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival badge because last night after the class, I went to go see a couple of movies. And when I got there, I had forgotten my badge. And there was this whole big hoo-ha. They couldn't get a ticket anyway, so I missed the first film. And then I got into the second film, and the whole thing. So today I'm wearing my badge because I'm not going to forget it. Okay, I'm not forgetting it this time. So, and I'll be in much better shape tonight to watch the movies. So we looked a little bit at the initial marketing that every filmmaker can do when they're talking about their films. And what I noticed is that filmmakers, you'll say to a filmmaker, what are you working on? And they'll say, well, it's a documentary, and this is my second documentary that I've made. Or you'll say, oh, what film are you working on? And they'll say, well, it's a horror film. And it's like they're saying nothing about the film. This is absolutely across the board. This is how filmmakers speak. I think it's very interesting because obviously filmmakers are storytellers, but somehow they kind of miss every opportunity that there is available to actually market or to use another word, sell their project. And, as because I always look at everything through the lens of money, as any real film producer does, the way, what I'm listening for when I ask, oh, what are you making? What I'm listening for is, is this a marketable project? And, and what are we talking about? I remember once I was at AFM and I was sitting in one of the seminars, and somebody raised a hand, and seminar must have been about marketing or something like that. He raised his hand and he said, I didn't make any money from my film, and I spent $2 million, and my film didn't make any money. And they were trying to be helpful, but I always thought that was really incredibly telling, because basically he's trying to sell us on the idea that his $2 million movie didn't make any money, But what I would like to ask you all, you know, just from what you learned yesterday or whatever, what is missing from his pitch? He wanted us to know he spent $2 million. What's missing? I may be asking this.
What's
You
the
know,
story? What's the story
the
about?
story.
What's the genre? Who's the talent? What's the bits? What's the juicy, the gold nuggets?
who is the talent is the main thing, because I mentioned this yesterday. If I have a film which has an A-lister in it, I don't sell the film on the story anymore. I sell it on the A-lister. And if I'm spending $2 million on a movie, I better have an A-lister. You know, it may not be Tom Cruise. You know, I doubt you could get Tom Cruise for $2 million unless he's your cousin, you know, but still, you know, there are 2,500 to 5,000 A-listers. So, you know, somebody, but for $2 million, you know, you better be able to get somebody in your film that really has a serious name. So if he had done his work correctly, he would have been saying, I have a film starring, who am I going to make up? Jennifer Garner. I have a film starring Jennifer Garner, and it didn't make any money, and I don't know why. That would be different. But of course, if it had Jennifer Garner, what would have happened differently? He would have made some money. So that thing is that in that one sentence, you know, he told us sort of nothing, but he told us everything about his business model could not have worked. And I have a client who, before he met me, he raised $1.7 million to make a movie. And he made that exact error. He didn't put any name talent in the movie. And the film has since made $330,000, which I think is amazing. That just shows his marketing genius, that he was able to get a film with absolutely no names and make $330,000 with it. But of course, because he had spent 1.7, oh my God, you know? So now he's making another film with me for a much smaller budget, because he was terrified to spend any money at all. But actually, I have to check in with him and see how his film is going. So, all right, the homework was that we were going to come up with a title and a log line for the film, 1, maximum 2 sentences. And that was our homework. So Clarissa and Rebecca, if you have a project you want to work on, you can do it, but we'll start with everybody else. Who's going to be brave and jump in first? Brett, yay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Oh, hold
So-
on 1 sec. Can you give me back the co-host, Emily? So I can do things. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
So obviously it's called Axe Lake, so it's the same film as I was on about yesterday, but I wrote a different log line for it.
Okay,
I've
I just want to say,
Yeah.
nobody else will have heard that title. I just can hear it because I'm English, but I just want to.
Axe Lake.
Lake. Isn't that interesting? Did anybody catch it the first time? Yeah, but Emily, you were here yesterday.
Okay, Axe Lake. Everyone got that now, yeah?
But can I just point this out, Brett? That when filmmakers work on writing their log lines
Yeah.
and not speaking their log lines, they don't learn the problem, which is people don't hear.
Okay.
You have to also practice speaking them, because people don't hear. So we didn't hear the word axe, and
Yeah.
partly it's to do with your
I'm trying to
accent.
be quiet because my baby's asleep, so I'm trying not to wake her up.
How is your baby?
She's like 4 months, so I'm trying to that's hence why I'm speaking a bit quieter than I normally would.
I'll
That's
be
why it's so
quiet.
dark in here. So my log line that I've done now is 10 years after his mysterious disappearance, B returns to join old friends on a lakeside reunion, only to be confronted by the sinister secrets of the lake and the lurking shadows of the Axeman, whose connection to B's past threatens them all.
Ooh, that's at least 10 times better than yesterday, right? Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, it's come a long way. And so, with log lines, I always like for filmmakers to practice their log lines and keep saying them and using that as a way to improve the log line. Because if you say your title on your log line and people go, then they didn't hear it. And if they go, ooh, tell me more, or, oh, how's everybody going to get murdered? Oh, with an axe, yeah. Then you know that they got it. So it's a really good start, and definitely try that out on people. But do you also hear what we were talking about yesterday, that you've switched focusing on the world to focusing on the character?
Yeah.
Right. And now that we see after 10 years? How did it start?
10 years after his mysterious disappearance, B returns to join old friends on a lakeside reunion, only to be confronted by the sinister secrets of the lake and the lurking shadow of the Axeman, whose connection to B's past threatens them all. Okay, so let me just do a thing. I am not somebody who can sort of write out these are the rules of log lines. I do it in a different way. So what happened is you started out with after his mysterious disappearance 10 years earlier, which is very interesting, right? Then you go and you list a whole bunch of things, and it's all kind of on this even keel. What you really want to do is raise the stakes. So increase the danger, so you want to go kind of up, is the way I know how to say it. So you sort of want to say, after his mysterious disappearance, B returns to something, and when I'm working on horror films, I always like to end with, and all hell breaks loose. So you want it to be more dramatic rather than where you have it right now, where it's kind of even, right? So that would be the next step, I would say, for your log line. But well done. And thanks for jumping in first, Brett. No problem.
Thank you. Okay, who's brave gonna go next? Armando. Yes. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay. The title, Candy, My Cuban Dad, a comedy with music and dance.
All right,
Marilyn.
wait a minute. Gian, what was the title?
I heard like I lost a piece, but I said like the Cuban, because he said it a little bit too fast.
Yes,
so
yes.
I lost a piece. I said the Cuban.
Clarissa, because this is all new to Clarissa. So what did you hear the title was?
I heard Candy, and then I lost it, and then I heard comedy and Cuban. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Armando? You didn't say that, right?
Or, you say that?
Nope, he didn't say
comedy. I thought I heard that.
Okay, so but all I'm demonstrating is how difficult it is for people to hear what you're saying. And then Brett and Armando, you are in an American forum, even though we're all in all these different. So when you have an accent that's not American, then it's harder for Americans to hear, right? So, all right, now with that in mind, Armando, let's have you start again.
Title, Candy, My Cuban Dad, a comedy with music
No,
and
you're
dance.
going too fast. You're going too fast.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
I go again. Candy, My Cuban Dad, a comedy with music and dance. Marilyn, an American woman arrives in Cuba posing as a filmmaker to interview the famous musician Candy. He recounts her exhilarating stories of his life, full of music, dance, humor, and trouble, spanning from the 1920s to the 1990s before discovering that Marilyn is, in fact, his daughter, and chaos erupts in the family.
House is the Spanish pronunciation. In English, we say chaos.
Chaos.
Chaos, yes.
Chaos, okay. And
Chaos.
chaos erupts in the family.
Nice, nice. Now notice, your ending is what I was just suggesting for Brett. You know, I said, and all hell breaks loose in a horror film. All hell breaks loose. You know, in a comedy, chaos erupts in the family. Right? That's very nice. So, Armando, how do you feel today about your logline?
Much better. I think that it's more compelling. It tells more about the characters and about the situation and about the span of the movies that go from the 20s to the 90s. So I get a more general idea what it's all about.
Another thing is, I think we knew yesterday that the main character was a musician. But today you told us that the music is comedy, music, and dance. You know, so now I have a very different picture of the film. Yesterday, and I never thought this consciously, but it was kind of gray. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I agree.
Kind of gray.
I agree.
Where you were talking about it, it was about this young woman. There was the focus was on the young woman and her posing and pretending that she wasn't a daughter, and then she knew he was her father, and all that. This time it feels bright and full of life, and right? It's very different. Now, which version, yesterday or today, do you think is more sellable?
Today's. This is obvious.
Yes, it's obvious.
I didn't hear yesterday's, but today, I mean, it sounds fun just listening to what it's about.
Yes. Yesterday it was quite serious.
Yeah, it looked like a drama.
You know, which is fine, but
it's just a comedy.
yeah, it's very, very different. And what I was trying to say is that the title and the log line are the first opportunities that you have to sell your film. And sometimes they're the only opportunity you have. 1 second, actually. Hold on. I think I showed you this yesterday, but at the film festival, I'm here at the film festival, and I did this last night. I was like, what's on at 8? What's on at 8 o'clock? And I looked, and it was Thursday up here. Okay, Thursday. And then I was there for the 8 o'clock movie. It says here, Shimoni, 97. And here it says, Canto Errante en la Hembrita at 8. So those are my choices. So right now, that's it. That's all the information I have. I can't tell you how common this is at a film festival. Okay, so then I was like, okay, so what is this movie Shimoni? So I'm looking, and there's this whole big thing, this huge thing full of information, movies. Finally, somewhere or other, I found Shimoni. And let me tell you the Shimoni. Okay, here's the movie Shimoni. See how much information there is here?
A paragraph.
Not a paragraph. No, that is 2 sentences.
Mhm.
And I'm so used to, has everybody here been to a film festival, by the way? Has everybody been to a film festival? But so when you
A
go
lot
to
of them.
when you go to a film festival,
Um,
this is how you have to pick a movie. You have the title, you have the log line, you know. It says here, well, this is interesting. It's made in 2022. It was made in Kenya. So that's interesting. Kenya. Trinidad and Tobago premiere. After 7 years in prison, Jeffrey, 35, has to restart his life in Shimoni. There he stays hiding in the local Catholic church when one Sunday after Mass, Jeffrey sees him. Petrified, he pees his pants and in a moment of rage kills a calf. The monster has found him. And we don't know who the monster is or why at this point, but when I watched the film, I found out who the monster was. But anyway, so my point is, this is normal. This is not like some special thing where we're just practicing today, and this is not real life. This is real life in the film industry. This is absolutely real life. And when I met Armando at the Miami Media Film Market, and I was with 4 of my clients, we were pitching. In those situations, we had 10 minutes. That is a very standard thing. I have a client who is an animator, and she has pitched to Amazon Kids and Cartoon Network and, you know, so on and so on. And they would have 30 minutes for a pitch. But that means, you know, she was driving, she was in the facility face to face in the meeting room. And I told her, how long are you planning on speaking for? And she said, I don't know, 30 minutes. And I said, no, absolutely not. 5 maximum. And the rest of the time, you're going to find out what they're looking for. I'm sending her back to pitch again now with them. So anyway, I'm very glad, Armando, that you feel much happier with this logline. But imagine the difference it's going to make when you talk to people about your film. Because it's exciting now. It's exciting, right?
I agree with
And
you.
when I work with my clients, I work with my clients for 3 months. So this is just day one, right? So day one, it went from gray to exciting. So as we continue to work on it, it's going to get better and better and better. And sometimes when I have my group with my clients and we're practicing our pitching, sometimes I feel guilty because I make them work at it and work at it and work at it and work at it. But I absolutely 100% believe it is the most important skill for a 21st century producer to have, is to be able to pitch verbally. And this is only the log line. This is not a full pitch. So thank you, Armando. Okay, who's going to jump in next? Gian Maria. And then we'll go to Leo's.
Yeah, Clarissa and I are working on the same project.
Who?
Well, we have
Clarissa and I.
Clarissa.
2 projects, so I'll pitch the other one, but you
Pitch
do
the other one.
you do 2.
Okay.
Okay, so the title is The Trick, the Closed Circle.
I didn't get that at all.
Like
What was
you didn't hear?
No.
The Trick.
Now remember, if I were reading, there would be no problems, right?
Mhm.
But reading and hearing are not the same thing.
Yeah, is The Trick, the Closed Circle.
The trick, the closed circle. It's not grammatically correct.
That like is a subtitle underneath.
It's not right though. you can say, if you want to have a title where you have, like you might have, say, let's say making a documentary about coffee.
Mhm.
You say coffee, colon, and you can say the word colon. You say coffee, colon, a gourmet pleasure. Right? So try it that way.
Like how like
Trick, colon.
so
Like
like
trick
trick,
and the closed circle, right? What you're saying?
like colon.
Yeah, it's not working though. It doesn't work at all. What are you trying to express with your title, Gian?
Yeah, like we're expressing like the story, but because like the title, it would be like the trick, and then like the subtitle will be the closed circle.
Right, but I'm just telling you, as an English teacher, I used to be an English teacher, it's not making any sense in English.
Oh, okay.
Let's hear the log line and see if we can maybe go back to the title.
Okay. When a troubled orphan therapist receives mysterious information about his grandfather's death, he takes 4 unhinged women on a cathartic journey in order to find out the truth about his family's legacy.
Okay, so can you say the first part again?
When a troubled orphan therapist receives
Okay, so how old is the therapist?
like 26, 27.
Okay, so I think what's going on here is a lot to do with English because it's just not working in English. So
Okay.
we don't call adults orphaned as a general rule. We
Oh,
talk
okay.
about children as being orphaned,
Uh-huh.
but not adults is the best way I know how to describe it. Often when there's these real subtleties of language, it's really hard to actually, why is that? I don't really know. Why do we not say that? I don't know, but we don't say it, right?
And how do you say?
Well, what's important about that he's orphaned? What's significant about that?
Because like he lost like his parents in an accident, and he wants to find out like the truth about his family, because he wants to find out like why his mom has the same like genetic disorder that his grandfather's has. So like I think that the fact that he doesn't have his parents alive is important to say, but I don't know the word. If it's not orphan, I don't know how to say.
I think we're going to use the method that Brett used. So after losing his parents in an accident, a therapist, and I'm going to have you do the log line again. This time I want you to leave out the 4 women. Take out the 4 women.
Okay.
Okay. So after an accident in which he loses his parents, a therapist, and then go from there. I know I'm messing you up, but
Okay, no. I'm taking notes. So like, okay, after experience. So no for women, you said.
no, let's get rid of the 4 women.
Oh, so like after losing his parents, a therapist receives mysterious information about his grandfather's death. And so likely, for women. So, and he wants, like after he receives mysterious information about his grandfather's death, he wants to find out the truth about his family's legacy. So, okay, without.
Yes, that's where I would start. That's where I would start. So now it's like what we were talking about yesterday. Now we have a story about a character who's going to go through all these ups and downs, and we're back to the hero's journey. So this particular hero. So the way, when I work with my clients and I work with them over time, we would play around with this, and then we put the 4 women back, and then we take them out, and then we put and see what, right? Just keep playing with it until we can get it so that it works. What is the genre of this film?
Is a psychological drama.
Drama?
Yeah, psychological drama.
Is anybody's life at stake?
Yes.
Then it's a thriller, because we don't call dramas psychological. We use that term for, oh, look, it's the baby. I thought the baby was supposed to be sleeping, Brett. we put a stop to that.
Also, psychological thriller.
Psychological thriller.
Okay.
Remember, I told you yesterday that it's very mysterious to me why all filmmakers want to call their films dramas. Remember I said that?
Yeah, it's true.
It's very mysterious. I'm like, why is that? One day somebody's going to tell me, why is it filmmakers want to call their films dramas and not thrillers?
I have a theory.
Please, Rebecca, because
In
I'm
all my
writing
years
a
of
book.
doing this, yeah.
I'm writing a book, and in my book, I don't have an answer. So maybe I'll put you in my book.
So the theory is that most of the time they don't understand the crux of their story, and so they think of it as dramatic because that's the first thing that comes to mind. Because when you're creating a story, oftentimes it's an exchange of emotion between parties, and they're overcoming adversity or some kind of conflict or what have you, and they don't realize that maybe it's a thriller, or like they don't understand the emotional part of it. So drama kind of encompasses, like, it's a general term.
I don't think that is what it is. This is what I think it is. This is the closest thing I have to a theory, is that filmmakers think that drama is better than thriller. That's what I think, that they think. That drama is better and more important. More important might be right.
I agree with you, Joanne.
Yeah.
I never use drama. I use the correct terminology of what I believe the writing is to be done.
Yes, but in the industry, this is the difference.
Now, I agree with what you think now. Everyone thinks everything's drama.
Everything is drama.
Yeah.
Well, everything is dramatic. I mean, if you have an exchange between 2 parties, 3 parties, whatever, it is, you know, drama is a general term. It encompasses all emotion, good, bad, ugly. In fact, that's what you learn when you start in theater. You learn drama, and drama is that kind of umbrella term that encompasses all types of expression of emotion,
Right,
whatever
but-
it may be. So it's easy. It's a lazy term, in my opinion. It's you know, it's not really getting into the crux of the story, like you were saying. Like in
Well,
his case, it's a
I
thriller.
I have definitely come across films where somebody dies, somebody gets murdered, somebody dies, somebody's kidnapped, and they're calling it a drama. And the thing about the industry, and I talked about this yesterday, that I'm really clear about, is that the industry, once you say thriller, the industry is like, oh, I know how to sell that. And as soon as you say drama, they're like, oh, who's in it? Right. So I'm always trying to show you how simple the industry is, you know, and filmmakers always think the industry is really complicated, because I have never been able to figure it out, but it's not. It's the opposite. The industry is simple. Simple. Oh, it's a thriller. I can sell it. Right. So I think keep working on that, Gian, and it's going to get really good. All right. Leos.
Thanks.
Now I lost you. Leos, where are you?
Oh,
Oh, there. I got you.
Yeah, am I on?
Emily, Theo seems to be having trouble. I don't know if there's anything we can do to help her get in.
It's her internet. She's having problems with her internet
Is
connection.
she communicating with you?
Yeah, she told me that her internet was having problems
I mean,
today.
just tell her to come in with no video, and then
She
I
has
don't-
been.
yeah,
She has been. It's just her connection.
yeah. All right. Okay, Leoz, let's hear your
Can-
title and your log
Can you hear
line.
me now?
Perfect.
Good, because I'm not in my regular environment. Okay, my name is Leoz, and I'm producing and
Just doing the title and the log line.
all right. Stuck is the title of my short film, and the logline is: after going through a car accident, Ellen wakes up realizing he's
Okay, I'm going to stop you, Leoz, because Leoz is already my client, so I can be mean
Mhm.
to him. Oh,
Please,
mean.
by
Ooh,
all means.
ooh, I'm going to be mean. All right. No, after going through an accident is way too, remember I was saying to Brett, is way too like even keel.
Mhm.
How do we talk about it when we go through an accident?
I think it's an,
Especially if it kills us.
I think it's another thing about language here, because I was struggling a little bit with how to open it.
Yes, yes.
And
How about after a terrifying car accident?
fatal.
All right. Well, okay. After a
Okay.
fatal car accident. All right. That's
Uh,
now we get into some drama.
Some juice. All right. So after a fatal car accident, Ellen wakes up realizing he's died and got stuck between the living and the dead worlds. Until he meets the psychic Emma, who offers to help him get released by killing her husband and saving her from a toxic relationship in which she is stuck.
Oh, you know, that's the first time that I ever actually got that she's stuck.
Ah, they're both stuck.
They're both stuck. That's really nice. That's
Yes.
really nice.
Yes.
I have a feeling, especially as this is a short film, everybody. So I have a feeling we don't need to know so much about her. What's her name again?
Emma.
Emma. And his name is what?
Ellen.
It's so funny because the way you're saying it, it sounds like Ellen.
It's Alan.
Alan, yes. So Alan and Emma, you see how difficult that is? Why don't you give him a different name?
We could. I mean,
Call
we're
him
not
David.
we're not stuck on that. David.
Call him David for a minute. Okay, call him David. All
Okay,
right.
sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now let's leave out most of Emma and see what you get.
Okay. All right. So after a fatal car accident, David wakes up realizing he has died and got stuck between the living and the dead worlds, until he meets Emma, who offers to help him get released. The psychic Emma, sorry.
Ah, the psychic Emma is very good.
Important, very important.
Yeah. The psychic Emma. Give us a little bit more. Not quite.
Who offers to help him get released by helping her killing her husband?
Or how about because I think this would look nice in the film festival program, right? After a fatal car accident, I think there's something also weird about has died. After a fatal car accident, David discovers that he is dead and stuck in the world of the living and the dead until he meets the psychic Emma, who finish it for me.
Who offers him help, who offers who offers to help him get released by helping her.
Right, something like that. Right. And you may even want to end on the word unstuck, because I think that's nice to have that balance.
Okay.
I think if I saw that, in my little program, I'd want to go see
Mhm.
it,
Yes.
right? And you know how that film ends up in this little program?
How?
Because a programmer read that and said, oh, I want to see that movie,
Oh, good. I got it. Yes.
right? A programmer, it's funny, yesterday I bumped into this lady, she is hilarious, and she's a programmer, she specializes in Latin American programming, and I've met her at a couple of festivals already, and she's one of the programmers here for the festival, and she's absolutely up on everything that's happening in movies, you know. But you know, I can imagine her name is Yvonne, but I can imagine her, you know, she's got a pile of movies, you know. I mean, some film festivals, there are hundreds, thousands and thousands of films
Mhm.
that they have to look at, right? How does your film stand out from everybody else's film,
Yes.
right? This is what we're working on. Okay, who would like to go next? Good job, Leos.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next? I mean, I keep wanting to say your name, Retamosa, because it's so fabulous.
In
Retamosa.
school, when I went to the New York Film Academy, they swapped it, and I'm still using the same Zoom account. So, but thank you. Okay, so this one we had originally written almost about a year ago, and we have taken a break on it to start writing the other story.
Just tell us the title and
This
the.
one is, yes, the title is Risen. The logline is, the devil and his mother nature armor must teach mankind the law of balance and how to live through either history or time in order to get back home.
Okay, so you were not here yesterday, so you didn't get the benefit. They're all cheating because they knew some things that you didn't know. So the log line that you just read is written in a very generic sense. I'm not getting a connection to a character or two. You know, in log line you can kind of fit in a character or two. That's why I had Gian take out the 4 women.
Yes.
Because it's like we're going with this character. 4 women. It's difficult to take it all in. Now in your case, we just don't really have a character.
So it's basically the concept of balance. You need both of them to be able to survive.
You can't make a movie about the concept of balance.
Well, I'm meaning in good and bad.
Oh, this is when I'm on the phone with my clients, they can't see me because I'm on the phone, right? And I'm often doing this. I'm saying, you're up here.
Yes.
And we need to be here.
Okay.
So you can't make a movie about the concept of balance.
Like with 2 people, like good and bad, you can't.
You didn't say 2 people. You said this movie is about the concept of balance.
Well, between 2 people.
But that's not the way we see movies. We see movies. John hates Fred, so he kills him. That's a movie, right? Jane loves Fred. They something and end up getting married. That's a movie. But you can't say this movie is about a concept of balance, right? So who is doing something?
The devil is killing his armor because he can't.
Okay, what does it mean killing his armor? What does that mean to kill your armor?
Because when he defies God for bowing down to human race, he is exiled and she is brought to earth as his armor. The armor, she is turned into a human. The armor, that's why it's the mother nature armor.
Right, but it's not, again, we're having problem with English here. It doesn't work in English, you know. Now, also, there's a world. This is a very common thing for filmmakers. You're creating a world for us. And in this world, you can have the devil have armor and for that armor to become human.
Yes.
Right, but whenever you are creating a world in a film, you have to teach all of us what the rules of your world are. So the simple example I'll give is that I never noticed this in the past, but recently in vampire movies, the vampire comes and knocks on your door, and they cannot walk in your house unless you say, you can come in.
Yes.
So it's a law of the world.
Yes.
You have to teach the viewer what the law is.
Yes.
And I don't think you can do that in a log line.
So if the devil kills his armor, and that's the first sign of death.
You can't say the devil kills his armor in a log line. I'm laying down this law. But you can't tell us the law of a world that you're creating when it doesn't make sense. Because you've got to teach us that in your film, and it's going to take us a while to learn that. So you're going to have to do it a different way.
Okay.
Try it without armor.
Okay. Thanks.
No, go ahead. Try it without armor.
Oh, you want me to reread it? Okay. The devil must teach mankind the law of balance and how to live through history and time in order to get back home.
Okay, so what you're doing, and again, we worked on this yesterday, but what you're doing is you're showing us a world and there are no characters in it. I mean, it's great to start a log line with the devil. That's a character.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? But
Yeah.
you're going to have to give us a story with us in a script. You have very, very few things that you can actually do in a script. In a novel, you can do lots of things. In a script, you can only do 4 things. You can have an actor who speaks and says dialogue. You can have action. You can have sound. And I can never remember what the 4th is. Well, you
vision.
the scene. You can describe the scene or whatever. So, but you can't make a film that's about a concept, like the devil has to teach mankind. That's not a movie. It has to be the devil returns to planet Earth so that he can destroy Jeffrey's life because he dared to speak up about something. I don't know, but the devil's got to go and interact with a person. That's a story. Once you have a character and something is happening. And we worked on that yesterday, so you missed that. But we worked on, you can't just sort of focus on the world. There have to be people that we can identify with.
Okay.
So the simplest one, as I said, is, well, Cain kills Abel.
And that was kind of the concept of like when his armor became human, instead of it being Cain and Abel, it was the devil killed her because Adam and Eve loved her. But
okay, so now you're starting to get into
yeah, that's into the story more.
Yeah. You can't pitch with a concept. It has to be a story of characters. Okay, do we have anyone else? Rebecca, do you want to give it a shot?
Sure, I can give it a shot.
Yay, Kay.
All right. This is actually kind of an old one that I'm dusting off from a few years back. A friend of mine who's also a director and we love fantasy and sci-fi. So this is a fantasy action film. The title is called Of Gods and Elves. And let me see if here's the summary, the log line here. Where is it? There it is. Artemis and Puck, creatures of magic and fantasy, attempt to preserve humanity's innocence by venturing outside of their extra-dimensional realms, risking becoming trapped by human desires, resulting in being stuck in the human world of technology and detachment.
Right. So once again, you're up here in abstract concepts. right? So even though you have Artemis and Puck, who are these characters, but then you go into, they are creatures of magic and fantasy, and now we don't know anything about them anymore, right? It has to be something like Artemis, who's 6 feet tall, has serious problems hanging out with his 2 foot tall brother or something, you know, but you had 2 characters and then you went totally into concept all the way up here, abstract. So that exactly everything that I said to Clarissa is the same for you. We can't just have sort of an idea of the world. We have to know this happens, then that happens, right? So in Brett's case, this guy goes back into the forest and meets these people, and then the Axeman comes and he's going to kill them all, right? Or in Leoza's case, this guy dies and then this happens, and he meets this woman, and then that happens. So a film is always there was a little while, it didn't last, but there was a little while when film was called a time-based art form. So we have A, then B, then C, then D. And in a log line, we can go da, da, da. But the world that we're creating, we can allude to it in a log line, but that's about it. It's still going to be, and this is what we were talking about yesterday. It's still going to be this happens and that happens and this happens and that happens, and it has to be this happens to so and so does this. It's always going to be about the character. It could be a green dragon decides to leave the forest and go in search of the love of his life, right? It's a time-based, character-driven thing. But good job, good job. All right. Is there anybody I've left out? Brett? Oh, that wasn't Brett.
Joan,
Yes.
no, I just wanted to add that, you know, we forgot to tell you that the project that Clarissa pitched, like the story would be more for a TV series than a film.
Right, but that it doesn't make any difference if you're
yeah, of course.
It's still going to be, you know, John does this and then that happens.
Yeah, of course, yeah. No, just to let you know, because maybe, you know, you have different way of handling that.
Because still, think about it. Where did I put it? Think about it like this, right? If I have a TV series, it's going to still get the same amount of,
yeah,
right? It's
So-
still the same. Who is that?
If it's me, I was wondering if I just removed creatures of magic and fantasy, that
Okay,
would dump it right into action with what
Try
you
it
were
with that.
saying.
Try it with
So,
that.
yeah, but
Try it with
I
that.
didn't want to cut him off. I was just wondering if you guys were done.
Try it.
All right.
Try it. with
So
that.
try it again real quick. Okay, so Artemis and Puck attempt to preserve humanity's innocence by venturing outside of their realm, risking becoming trapped by human desires, resulting in being stuck in the human world of technology and detachment. Is that a little better?
It's definitely better, but once you get to human desires, now we've lost character again.
Because it's too general?
There's no character. So the easiest thing to do is to translate that. It's so similar to Clarissa. Armor needs to be a character. In your case, human desire needs to be something. It needs to be, and I keep using these silly names just to make it as clear as possible, but it needs to be John by John's something, something, something. You know, but once you're still at human desire, the world of technology, you're all up here in the abstract.
I feel like, is that like where we live now in this generation? I'm
No,
so
No,
I'm
it's
like,
not.
because I
No,
feel
it's
like that's
not.
just how my brain thinks now.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I'll tell you what it is. It is when I used to teach English, I used to write on people's papers abstract. I used to write not specific. So what's happening when I'm on the phone, I'm doing this, and my clients can't even see me. It's because it's all in the abstract here. And what is exciting is the specific. What human beings love to hear in stories is the specific. Right? As long as it's up here in the abstract, it's not fun. It's
How do you give the specific without giving the whole plot away and spoiling it?
you
How
can't
do you do that balance?
Yeah, you can't possibly give the whole plot away in a log line, but it could be that the fear of that is what's keeping you in the abstract.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. But if you can, but as I said, with a log line, when I work with my clients over a period of time and we work on it and work on it and work on it and work on it, it's not a one-shot deal. But often it means that when you have people who are really abstract thinkers, we have to get down to very specific things. And so, you know, it might be that you pointing to something like with Brett's story. I mean, he could, if he could end up by saying, "And all hell breaks loose." Given that we know it's a horror film, given we know it's the Axeman, we can have a good idea of what's going to happen. You know, in some stories, we might not have any idea. With Liaz, I was saying, let's have her get him unstuck. You could say that's spoiling the movie. It depends. All right, Brett.
I did have a second log line.
Okay,
Can I run it past you? Or
go ahead.
so in a desk, I writ 2 yesterday. But I thought the other one was better than this one, if I'm honest. In a desperate bid to reconnect with his estranged friends, B agrees to a weekend getaway at the infamous Axe Lake. But as they reveal, under the blood-red moon, the group is stalked by the mythical Axeman, whose dark secrets ties impeccables to B's own hidden past. It's a race against dawn for survival in this pulse-pounding thriller where friendships unravel and a deadly legend comes to life.
Yeah, I think the beginning was definitely better. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's exciting when you start out with a desperate bid to reconnect with his friends, right? We haven't got into any violence or horror stuff yet, but we connect with a character who's desperately trying to reconnect with his friends.
Yeah.
What's happening is that in the first phrase of the log line, we're having a feeling of connection with those characters.
Yeah.
You hear that, everybody? That the only thing that matters in a movie is that we connect with the characters. Because if we never connect with the characters and never care about them, then it doesn't matter what happens to them. Right? When Brett kills off all his characters with an axe, we're not going to care. We're going to be like, well, chop his arm off slower. But if we care about the characters, so in the case of this one, the second log line, the vulnerability of that character, that he is desperately trying to reconnect with his friends. Everybody probably has some way that they can identify with that. All right, we're going to move on to something different. So yesterday, I started out saying that I have this 7-step process, and the program I go through with my clients, I call the film box office success formula, and success has 7 letters. And we have now spent In a 2-day class, we have spent more than a day on the first one, which stands for, what does the first letter S stand for?
Script.
Script.
Script. And what's the particular way I think about the script? It's what's kind of script?
Marketable.
Marketable.
Yes, who said that first? Gold star. All right.
Me.
So a marketable script. Gian got it. Gold star. Gold star. So a marketable script or a sellable script, even though I know most of you are not really looking to sell your scripts per se, but it's the same. It's what I mean by a sellable, a marketable script. So what I want you to notice as we've been listening to everybody's log lines, I think there were some where we heard them yesterday and now they sound tons better. But what I'm trying to show you is it's the same film. It's the same story. I'm not talking about the film and I'm not talking about the story. I'm talking about marketing the film, marketing the story. And so if this is all we have to go on, then how do we market this film and how do we make it more exciting for more people to want to watch it, invest in it, act in it, work on it, all those things. So we're looking at marketing. So I'm going to share my screen and oh, you know what? I didn't pull up my time thing so I can watch the time. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay. How are we doing on time? Actually, before we go into this, I'm going to have another breakout session so you can meet another couple of filmmakers. Try again in your breakout session to practice your log lines again. Now you've already heard them all, but you're going to practice again, and there'll be either 2 or 3 of you in each room, and I'll give you 5 minutes, and let's have you just practice again. And if you destroy it, don't worry, we're just going to remake it again. All right, so 5 minutes, meet another filmmaker, and see you in a bit.
Can you make me co-host, please, so I can do the recordings?
Okay. Oh, yeah. Make co-host. That's very nice.
Birds of a feather. It was fun to be in the room with her and like to try to help us get this dialed in. So
Yeah.
It was very, very helpful.
That's great. Welcome back, everybody. All right. So I'm glad that you're getting to meet each other. Always good to meet another filmmaker. So now I'm going to share my screen. And so the first, wait, oh, there we go. The first letter stands for S, for script, except in my version, it's a marketable script. That is not the thing that I wanted to share. I didn't want to share a whiteboard. I wanted to share that. So we have this this PDF, and we can send it to you, but it's the Film Box Office Success Formula. So now you're seeing it written down, SUCCESS. And it's about me. You already know about me. And the first step is S, creating a marketable script. The second step, and I don't really think in your case, anybody in this room, is that this is an issue, but the reason that the second letter U is for you make your own film is because I meet so many filmmakers out there who think that their job as filmmakers is to find a producer. And, you know, it's great if you can find a producer, but the reason it's so difficult is because, and I was talking about this a little bit yesterday, in the film industry, people earn a living by earning a percentage of the work. So if you're making films and you haven't made any money on your films, it's going to be very hard to find a producer, because the producer has to earn their 10% or whatever it is, because they have to eat. So in a way, it's kind of how the film industry works, and it's why it works against you when you're beginning in your career. So my belief is that you can be your own producer and you can make your own film. And the truth is, what most producers will do if they do work with somebody on a film is they'll say, okay, you get the money and I'll make the film. You know, I'll hire the crew, I'll bring in the actors, I'll do all that work. And to me, what's missing there is about who is going to raise the money. So I see this a lot with my clients. So I teach my clients how to raise money, right? And often my client will come to me and they've raised the money, they're making their film, and they hire somebody. Sometimes they hire, let's say, a director. They hire a director, and then the director wants to make the director's film. You know, and I always have to go back to my client and say, okay, let's just get clear about this. Who raised the money? And they're like, oh, I didn't. I'm like, whose film is it? Okay, it's your film. When you raise the money, you have the say. And so this happens a lot, as I said, with my clients, because I think most of us as filmmakers, we're very collaborative and we want everybody to have their input, and we want it to all be very democratic and very collaborative, all that kind of thing. But in the end, the one who raises the money is the one who has the say. And the way that I like to say it to artists, given that you're all artists, is that when you learn how to raise your money, you get to create the vision you want to create. You get to create the vision you want to create. And there's a direct correlation between raising the money and creating the vision. Those two things work together. And so, as I said, the kind of standard way in the industry where, let's say, no, I don't want to use me as an example. Let's say Emily's a producer, right? And she's produced a lot of films. And she says, yes, I'll produce your film for you. She's going to say, okay, you bring the money and I'll produce the film for you. And to me, that's not what I think is the best way of doing it. If you have a vision, and all of you do, you already told us your title, your log line, you already can see the film in your head. You know, what I'm trying to help you do is communicate the vision you have in your head to other people. Once you can communicate that to other people, you can raise money. Once you can raise money, now you can implement the vision. So I believe that you want to make your own film, and that you are going to do that by raising the money. And that's where a lot of filmmakers get stuck. But at least they're not out there looking for, you're not out there looking for producers to do that for you. So this third step, the letter C, is for calculate your film's value. And this is the part that I think that filmmakers always have completely missing from their thinking about their films. And what I mean by calculate the film's value is to know enough about the marketplace, about the industry, to know what we're really talking about when we're talking about the value of the film, the dollar value of the film. And to me, this piece is the big missing piece. I don't think there's any filmmaker I've ever met who could have a serious conversation with me about how much their film is actually worth, about what the value of their film is. We had a little discussion at the end of the day yesterday with Leoz, who asked if he could make money with his short film. And I said, no, you don't make money with short films. That's not to say that you might not make $50 here and $100 there, but you're not going to make money with a short film. So if we know that there is no money to be made with a film, then it seems to me that clarifies to us what we're going to do. And the way I do it is we raise the money to make the film, and then we don't have to worry about whether the film makes money or not, because we already raised the money and we're not using our savings or going into debt or anything like that to make a movie. So I'm going to start by talking about micro budget films. So micro budget films, I would say, is anything up to $150,000, $150,000. And I have probably half my clients are making films in that budget range. And so I'm just going to share this story with you. Actually, let me stop sharing for a minute. I can see you better. So a few years ago, Amazon Prime, Amazon Prime decided that they were going to offer every feature film that made it to Sundance. They were going to offer them a guaranteed, what's the right word? Minimum guarantee. Anyway, payment, license fee is the right word. License fee for their films. So every single feature film that got into Sundance, Amazon Prime said, we're going to give you an amount of money for your film. Okay. I would like to see if, because you've all been so good about jumping up and participating, if you would like to guess how much it was that Amazon Prime said they were going to pay. So we'll start with a US dramatic feature. How much do you think that Amazon said they would pay?
100K.
Okay, anybody else? Armando, you're muted.
$10,000.
10,000, did you say?
Yes.
10,000. Okay. Who else wants to guess?
I'm sorry, John, I got disconnected. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the question is, so Amazon said that they were going to pay a certain amount of money for every feature film that got into Sundance. And I said, let's start with US dramatic feature. How much do you think they said they would pay? And this was for a 2-year license, by the way. 2-year license.
Oh.
We had 100,000, we've had 10,000. Who else would like to guess? Gian.
$500,000.
How much?
$500,000.
$500,000. Okay. Gian, how much do you guess?
Like $500,000, yeah. It's more. I think it's
$500,000.
I agree the most. Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca, can you speak? Are you there?
Well, I know it from a different standpoint. I'm not sure what they would offer at a feature film festival, but usually I know for Amazon deals, they tend to do like 25 to 30% on top of the film budget if they're actually purchasing it from a person. But if I were to say have it as a guess, and they were going to pay for each film there, correct? Each one that was at Sundance for a 2-year deal.
There are only 18 slots.
I'm gonna 18 slots. Okay, I'd say 5,000.
Okay. Okay. So that's quite a range. Now, if the range is from 5,000 to 500,000, do you see how that might make it a little difficult for us to decide how much to spend on making our film? Right? There's a big difference between 5,000 and 500,000. And for the most part, most filmmakers don't have any idea. Clarissa is trying to get in. I'm not seeing her as trying to get in. She's not showing up somehow. Just let her know we're not seeing her, Gian, we're not seeing her. But this is really about as much in the dark as every filmmaker is. Every filmmaker is this much in the dark. So I'm going to tell you what Amazon actually offered filmmakers. So they offered for dramatic features $125,000. And okay, let's have a guess for documentary features. How much do you think? Have a guess.
40,000.
100?
140, I think I heard.
40,000, yes.
40, okay.
50,000.
50. Any more? Any more?
75.
75. Brett, very good. 75,000. So they offered 75,000 for a US documentary. And how much do you think they offered for a foreign language film?
30,000.
Anyone else? Any advance on
Well, how
30?
much did you say?
For a foreign language feature film?
No. What was the first
Oh,
guess?
he said 35.
Oh my God, that was my guess, like 40.
40. Anybody else?
80,000.
80,000. The number was actually 25.
Oh wow.
25.
Far off, man.
Now, Sundance is a very high level film festival. As I said, in the dramatic feature competition, they only have 18 slots. You know, and the truth is that, like, for example, well, no, he's a documentary filmmaker, but I have a client who's a documentary filmmaker whose every feature film goes to Sundance. So a lot of the slots are already taken up by filmmakers who've already had films at Sundance. I mean, it still has to be as good a film as was in before, but still. So of those 18 slots, they have a bunch of filmmakers who already had a film at Sundance. They have a bunch of filmmakers. Now she showed up, Gian. We have a bunch of filmmakers who went through all the labs, went through the directing lab, the producing lab, the script lab, you know, and so Sundance has been preparing them. So out of those 18 slots, there are only really about 3 slots that are open every year, right?
Wow.
This is a level of competition that is so high and so intense. And Amazon offered them $125,000 for a 2-year license. And that probably would be exclusive. No, was it? You can look it up, so you can look up everything I'm saying. I think it was exclusive for 2 years worldwide. Okay. Now, a lot of filmmakers made a big fuss about how bad this was, what a terrible offer this was. And I always thought, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, because I have been to Sundance and I have seen films that did not get a distribution deal, that did not do anything after the festival. And so at least they would have had some guaranteed money. You know, they would have had a guarantee, they would have had some money, they could have paid off their credit cards, all of that stuff, you know, to start with. And then they would, as we learned yesterday, they'd have had other sales possibilities. They could have made more money. It was for 2 years. It wasn't forever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So to me, I thought it was a great deal. I thought it was a great deal. Do you know how many years Amazon offered that deal for?
1 year.
1 year. And that was the end of it.
Didn't last for too
That's it.
long.
So like is
Yeah.
1 year exclusive?
Yep, that's,
Sure.
well, it's for a 2-year exclusive deal, but they only offered it one time at the Sundance Festival. Yeah.
Wow.
And as I said, you can Google it, you can look it up and you can see. But I think that that gives you a very good idea about the kind of money that is offered. I'm talking for micro budget films, no name films, you know, but those are some hard numbers, you know. I just I go to the American Black Film Festival every year that happens in Miami Beach, and I met this British filmmaker, and he had made a micro budget horror film. Very good. It won Best Director and Best Short. I mean, sorry, Best Director and Best Actor at the American Black Film Festival. And I was like, oh, can I see your film? So it was very good. And he didn't tell me what his budget was, because filmmakers learn real fast not to tell you their budgets. And he had an offer already from Amazon, and he already had an offer from Netflix, but I could pretty much guess what it was. And he said, well, you know what? It was more than we spent on our budget, so I'm happy.
Mhm.
Right? I'm happy. I'm getting more than my budget. So I figure he probably spent 100,000, 120,000. Maybe the offer was 130, 150, something like that. So I said to him, well, I have a connection to Blumhouse. How would you feel about bringing your film to Blumhouse? And he said, okay, I'm interested. I said, obviously it's going to hold you up for a month or two, but you know. So I took it to a sales agent who has a relationship with Blumhouse. He saw the film, he liked the film, his business partners liked the film. He said, okay, we're going to talk to Blumhouse about it. The first thing he said to Blumhouse was, are you interested in films that do not have major names? And I thought that was very smart, because, and this is just something that I have learned, the reason that the gatekeepers are the doors are so locked in the film industry is because it's so easy to waste people's time. So he said, are you interested in a film that has no names? And Blumhouse said, yes, but we won't pay more than 7 figures. I was like, yeah. It's like, yes. So Blumhouse looked at the film and they turned it down. And they said, you know, we like this, we like this, we like this, we like this, but this wasn't quite up to the standard. It was acting, they said, wasn't quite up to the standard that they were looking for, but it was that close. It was that close. And then the sales agent said, look, you know, I have a connection at Netflix US, and we think we could get you about 400,000 minimum in that deal. And the filmmaker said no.
Why
So,
did he say no? Why?
well, as I keep saying these days, I've written a book about filmmakers. It's coming out January the 1st, and I try and explain some of these things. But in the end, I can't explain it.
Make no sense, does it?
Makes no sense. It makes no sense. But anyway, he turned it down. So he will make his sale with Netflix, and hopefully he can go to it was Netflix Africa or whichever country, but it was and maybe he can go to them and he can say, look, I've been talking to Blumhouse. Look, I've been talking to Netflix US. You know, how about you give me some more money? He can say that. You know, he can try. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, he turned down our offer. So anyway, this is all to say that, you know, one of the things that I get very excited about is if I find a film where I can really find out information about how much it was made for, how much it made. And as we already know, usually we can only find out how much it made in theatrical. But if we can find out how much it made in the following windows, that's really, really useful information. So if any of you have filmmaker friends and you can get them to share their budgets with you and the income on their films, definitely do that, because that's going to be very, 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 very valuable information, and not information you can find anywhere else. You know, when my clients are making their pitch decks, they always say to me, oh, well, I did all this research and I couldn't find anything. And I said, no, I told you already, you're not going to find anything. You're not going to find anything. But over the years, I've collected numbers for films, and I just keep them because it's like gold to know that number. Okay, so calculate your film's value. And the main thing that I talked about yesterday is that in order to increase your film's value, what is the most common way to increase your film's value? Somebody jump in.
The genre. Choose the right genre.
Not
bankable talent.
Yes, bankable talent. That's the most common way to increase the value of your film. And yesterday, Gian told us that he was in a film, Secret Society 3, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
in Secret Society 3, which is it's not micro budget, it was low budget. The first one was low budget. I don't know what the budget of the third one is, but they've certainly been making money on Secret Society, and then Secret Society 2, and now whenever Secret Society 3 comes out, they're making serious money with these films. And a lot of how they're doing it, because they're not filmmakers, they're not from the industry, but they're so marketing savvy, and they're using influencers, social media influencers, to increase the value of the film. But it's all the same concept, right? It's like if I put Denzel Washington in my film, and Denzel Washington is worth $20 million, you know, then I know I'm going to make $20 million on my film. But you could also look at Denzel Washington and say, well, how many followers does Denzel Washington have on Instagram? And he probably has millions and millions of followers. So now social media influencers can have millions and millions of followers on Instagram, and maybe that can be a way to increase the value of your film by using an influencer. And the only problem there is they may not be able to act, you know, but they might be. So, but when I say calculate your film's value, the first step that I take with my clients when we work together is we look at every way that we can take to increase the value of the film. So your film may be worth X number of dollars, but there are also ways that we can increase the value of the film. All right, so let us take a little break, and then we'll come back. We already have dealt sort of with distribution, but we'll look at that a little bit, and then get through the 7 steps by the end of today at 4:30. Well, 4:30 my time. So let's take a little break until 3:30 my time, until 1/2 the hour, and you can get your coffee or whatever lunch, and we'll come back and finish up. Were you about to say something, Emily? No. Okay. All right. See you in 15 minutes. I hope you are rested, fed, and watered before we just go into our last hour. And Where do I start? I will start here. So is everybody back? Yes. So please share my screen. The next letter in our 7-step process is E, for the easiest fundraising plan for you. And I teach 7 types of fundraising. And see, I pulled out my 7 types of fundraising as well. Where's that? It's hiding. It's hiding. It's from yesterday. I don't need that anymore. Anyway, I teach 7 types of fundraising. Here we go. So can you see that now? Did Zoom switch? Yeah. Okay. So to me, the most important question with the 7 types of fundraising is which one works for you. And so
We can't see it.
you can't see it. Okay.
We see the step 5, the easiest fundraising plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It didn't switch.
Yes, that's what I always check, because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't on Zoom. I don't know why. So I think this is one of the trickiest things, I think, for filmmakers, is that there really are a lot of ways of raising money. And the thing is that not every single one is right for every single filmmaker, and it's not right for every single film. And that is a very tricky piece. When I work with my clients, we pretty much make that decision in our first session, which are the ways that we're going to raise money. But it's I'm balancing where the filmmaker is at, what the film is, even where the filmmaker is geographically plays into that. So there are all these different factors to weigh in, but I don't want to be wasting time working on ways of fundraising that are not particularly going to work. Although if we use a mix of fundraising types, we're balancing. I was talking yesterday a little bit about the faster money versus the slower money and that kind of thing. It's very complex. I've been a fundraiser now for 30 years, and so it doesn't really feel complex to me, but I know that it is to filmmakers. And I think the hardest thing about it is knowing how to move forward on a path and know, this is my path, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, this is what I'm supposed to be spending my time on, this is what I'm supposed to be working on. So I didn't save time today to really go through all the 7 types of fundraising, but we can send you this so you'll at least have a little thing. So the fastest way of raising money is through individual donors. And the difference between a donor and an investor, they could be the same person, but a donor wants to give to your project and an investor wants to invest in order to make money back. And I think that this is one place where filmmakers really get mixed up. I have a client who, when he started working with me, he'd already made 2 films. He'd already had investors for 2 films, and it had never crossed his mind he was supposed to pay them the money back. So he was treating investors like donors instead of like investors, right? So I said to him, well, how would it be if you, I said, the first question I always ask people is, are these the kind of investors that are going to break your legs if they don't get their money back? And so far, everybody has said to me, no. So that's the blessing, right? They're not going to come and break your legs if they don't get their money back. And I said, well, go to your investors. If they will still speak to you, go to them and say, I'm going to work with somebody. She's a business coach. She's a consulting producer, and she is going to make sure that we make money on this next film. And he did that, and they said yes, and they have come in at $200,000 to make his next film. He was going to raise 3. I think I talked about him yesterday. He's just finished his film, so it's kind of at the top of my list. But he said, oh, I decided I want to make it for 200,000. Why spend extra money? Good thinking, Batman. So there's a very big difference between an individual donor and an individual investor, but they might be the same person. They might be giving the same amounts of money, but it's very important to have that clarity. And I break up individuals into 2 types. So there are individual donors who are small donors, and they usually, in the film world now, we use crowdfunding campaigns. So individual donors who give to crowdfunding campaigns, the general amount they give is $50, $75, $100. And so if you want to raise a small amount of money, you can do a crowdfunding campaign. You can do that from small donors. And I always advise my clients to do a crowdfunding campaign, even if they're going for investors or even if they're getting from major donors, whatever. But a crowdfunding campaign, I always think, is a good idea. So that's why I now, as Emily said in my introduction, I have helped my clients with over 40 successful crowdfunding campaigns. The second type of individual donors is major donors. And I have some clients who wrote to their network and asked people to give larger amounts of money. $1,000, $5,000, those are kind of major donors. One of the things that we do, I work with my clients, is we might run a crowdfunding campaign for small donors, and then out of that leverage 1 or 2 people as major donors. We've done that many, many times. And all of the different types of fundraising is handled differently. So you don't treat your crowdfunding people the same way as you treat your major donors, and you don't treat your major donors the same way as you treat the other funders. And again, all of these things are sort of factored into how are you going to raise your money. The third type is foundations. So if you are making a documentary, or if you have a film that is a cause-related film, let me give an example of a cause-related film. So I'm going to make this up, but let's say Leo's, one of the characters in Leo's film was somebody with Alzheimer's, because I'm talking to somebody right now who's making a film about Alzheimer's, but not a documentary, a fiction film. But foundations are great. If you have a cause, then foundations are entities that are set up to give money to causes. And so foundations are really good for your kind of film. I have a client, she's on her 13th feature film, so she's very, 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 very advanced. She's a documentary filmmaker. And she is making a project about the Writers Project, the WPA, which was in America in the 30s and 40s. And she's basically raising money for research and development, and it's all from foundations. They are basically interested in the Writers Project, its history, its art, its literature, its, all these different things, journalism, all these different things. So she's raised so far about $400,000 from foundations for that project. Corporate sponsorship is very difficult for filmmakers, but there are 2 types of corporate sponsorship. So actually there are 3. So a lot of corporations have set up entities that operate like foundations. So I've raised money from Microsoft, Yahoo, Clorox, a lot of major companies. They'll set aside money, put it in a foundation, and then that operates like a foundation. But corporate money, usually when we think about corporate money, we're thinking about marketing money. So a corporation will spend money on marketing. And the reason it's hard for filmmakers to get corporate dollars is because, especially on your first film, it's difficult to be able to say how many people are going to see your film. And when you go to a corporation, you need to be able to say, I have X million people, I have X 100,000 people seeing my film. And so corporate sponsorship is very difficult unless you know where the film is going to be seen and how many people are going to see the film. Even another one of my very advanced clients, he's actually pitching today at a major foundation that's brought in all these corporations. But in his case, we know this film is going to be at Sundance, this film is going to be on PBS, this film is going to have a big audience. Special events. Now, I am very biased and I really dislike special events as a way of raising money. So I have to say that up front. Everything I say is going to be colored by my bias. But a lot of nonprofit organizations will do special events to raise money. And I just did so many, I'm burned out, really burned out on this as a way of raising money. But there's a great way of raising money through special events that is called house parties. And my mentor, Murray Warshawski, wrote the book on house parties. And when I get back out of sharing my screen, I'll put his name, but he wrote a book called House Parties. And basically you invite people to a friend's house, like you pick your richest friend, you go to their house, they put on an event for you, they invite their friends, and you ask them to give money to your campaign. So it's really back to individual donors, but it's eventized and put into a special event where you invite people to give money. So the sixth way of raising money is grants. And especially for those of you living not in the US, there's always some kind of government money from every other country other than the US. There's grant money for the arts and for film and so on. And if you are in the US, you're not going to look necessarily to the federal government for money, although there is federal money. There's the NEA, the NEH, things like that. But what I would suggest is that you look at your small, whatever the local arts is. So right now I'm in Miami Beach. Miami-Dade County has money for artists. Miami Beach has money for artists. The state of Florida has money for artists. So I always think, look at your local level for grants. And the other thing that's important, I was talking to a filmmaker the other day, and she said, oh, I got a grant from whatever state she lives in, but I haven't applied since because, well, she didn't even have an answer to why. And I'm like, that's money you can get every year. You can apply for your local art money every year. Maybe you get it every other year. Maybe you get it every year. When I was living in San Francisco, I had a friend who is a filmmaker who applied for San Francisco art money every year. She got $10,000 every year. You know, $10,000 would be very valuable, you know? So I always say, start with the small grants, the local ones, and then build from there. By the time you get to where Thomas Allen Harris is on his 10th grant, where Andrea Kalin is on her 13th film, then you'll have access to a lot more in terms of grants and foundations and major donors and so on. And the seventh way is investors. So investors is a very different thing. So they are looking to earn money on your film. And that's why I took the time to go through the distribution piece so carefully, because in order to get investors, you have to be able to speak to distribution and how they're going to earn money on your film. So let me share my screen again. So if we go back to, in the word success, the E stands for the easiest fundraising plan for you. Now, depending on who you are as a filmmaker, where you are at in your filmmaking career, if you're a beginner, if you're very experienced, if you have films behind you, things like that. All of those are factors that are going to play into what is the easiest fundraising plan for you. And I also want to tell you, it took me years to use that word easiest, because one of my pet peeves is when people say, oh, $100,000, that's going to be easy to raise. I hate that. There's no such thing as easy when it comes to fundraising. Fundraising is hard. Fundraising is hard work. It may not be rocket science, because it's not rocket science. It's pretty simple, but it's work. And you know, I have raised anything from my beginner clients. I tell them, you know, what do you want to choose? $11,000 or $12,000. That's it. Those are the choices they have. I have raised millions of dollars, but everything in there is how do we make it as easy as possible, the least work possible, the least effort possible, and how do we make it that to get to the to success as quickly as possible. So it says here, who could have written this? It's so good. In order to raise money, regardless of which kind of fundraising you plan on doing, you'll also need to prepare some excellent marketing materials. Luckily, if you've written a marketable script, come up with a production plan, calculated the value of your film, and created an ideal distribution plan, preparing materials should be a breeze. Start sharing your pitch and pitch deck proposals with others. Practice, practice, practice. So that's where you all are now. All of you have, you know, we've done some work on your log line. Some of you who signed up for the VIP, we're going to do more work on your log line. And once you have a log line that really sings and sizzles and is exciting, then you can see how that's going to make an impact on raising money. So step 6S is start fundraising. And I put this in because what I see with my clients, and I think this is just very human, is that we do all the preparation and then people stop and they don't actually want to get going with whatever we've picked, you know. I'll give you an example. This guy actually just came back to work with me again, but we were working on a grant application and I knew the deadline was the next day and we had been working on it for a few weeks. And I don't usually check my email at 9 o'clock at night. And I got an email from him at 9 o'clock at night. And he said, Joanne, I have filled out 38 pages of this grant and it's due tomorrow, but I can't figure out page 39, so I'm not sending it in. We had done all this work and he wasn't going to send it in. And luckily I saw it at about 9 o'clock at night and I just wrote to him and I said, get on the phone with me at 9 in the morning. So we get on the phone. I said, what's wrong with page 39? And he said, well, you know, I just don't understand it because, and they were asking something and I can't tell you how simple a question it was. It was a really simple question that he absolutely knew the answer. But he just froze. I mean, and I'm telling you, I've seen this over and over and over and over again. And so we had a little talk. I just went over him what it was. And he was like, oh. I mean, it literally was what, you know, he was sending a work sample. What was the budget of the work sample? That was the question. It wasn't anything crazy. And so he's, you know, he finished it and he hit send. But I said to him, listen, I would have been happier if you didn't have an answer to page 39. I would have been happier if you sent in the grant with the 38 pages finished. And he said, well, why? And I said, because it might be that the person who receives the grant writes to you and says, oh, we got your grant application, but could you send us page 39? You have no idea. You have no idea. But I see it all the time where filmmakers do all their preparation and then they get scared or something. They get scared at that moment where they're either going to speak to the investor or they're going to send the materials. Armando was with me on Monday and Tuesday at the Producers Network, and I saw it happening with my 4 clients there. I saw them do it. You know, I had one client, we went in, we made a pitch to the head of CAA Latino. CAA, the biggest agency talent agency in the world. He's the head of CAA Latino. We went in, we pitched this beautiful script that's about Miami bass and all what happened in the 90s with DJs and all of that stuff in Miami. And this guy was so excited. He loved it so much. He loved the pitch so much. And we also, you know, the story's never been told. I mean, we've seen about the rise of hip hop in the Bronx and in LA and Compton and Atlanta. We've never seen the Miami story. He was so excited. So we left and we said, we'll send you the pitch deck. So I met with my client afterwards and I said, you know, it would be great if you took out these couple of slides after what he said, you know. He said, okay. And I said, make sure you send it as soon as possible. So that night he didn't send it. The next day he didn't send it. It was getting to be about 24 hours after our meeting. And I said, Anthony, what's happening? And he said, well, I'm still working on it. And I said, absolutely not. Never send anything longer than 24 hours after the meeting. I said, don't change anything. If you can't change anything, don't worry about it. Send it as it is. So he sent it. And I said, now you can go away and you can make the changes that I was recommending and so on. And then you can send it to him again and say, oh, by the way, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at the deck again, but now here's an updated version. But I never let my clients send anything in longer than 24 hours. But it's just so common that people get stuck. Another one of my clients, we had a fabulous pitch session. And I saw the same thing where he was starting to hesitate about sending in the pitch deck. It's so common. It's so common. And I think nobody expects it. They think I've got it together. I'm a tough guy or I'm a tough gal, you know, I'm gonna prepare all my things for fundraising. I'm gonna get going. And then it happens to everybody and they get scared or something. As I said, I've written a book. I try to understand. But that is a place that people get stuck. And then the final S is for start production. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that there is work that needs to be done before you start production. And I'm not talking about finding your locations, hiring your crew, hiring your actors. I'm not talking about that. There's all this other stuff. You know, the first session I have with my clients, we decide how we're going to get distribution, how are we going to raise the money, who's going to be the lawyer, do we need an accountant, do we need, you know, all of these things. And all of that starts from day one because all of the business pieces have to be in place by the time you start production. And so the way that I see it is that production begins when all of this is in place. The marketability, we've been thinking about that, the money, the distribution, we're thinking about all of that. The day that you get to be on set on day one, that is the beginning of another whole process, but all the business stuff has been laid down. The foundation of the business has been laid down before day one of production. Okay. So basically, you know, I just want everybody to be in a place where the film can be a success, because you already know how to market it, you already know how to sell it, you already know how to raise money, you already have brought a team together, so that when you end up being on set, you can be free to do all the creative that you want to be doing, that you've been wanting to do all this time, but you've built the business side of things up. Okay, so now I'm going to share what my computer really looks like. Now, don't tell me I have to have fewer windows open. Everybody always tells me you can't have that many windows open. So I just want to show you a couple of things. So I think I was it you I told that so a few years ago I started to put a list together of all my clients' films. And these are my clients' feature films. And it's not, I've been putting this together for about 4 years, and I never showed it to anybody. And then just recently I met a film investor, and I said, by the way, I have 143 films in various stages of production. And I have a list, you know, and I said, but I don't know anybody who would be interested in seeing that list. And he said, well, I'd be interested in seeing that list. So I showed him the list. So I've just started showing this list to people, like in June. And here was one of my first clients. He made this film, Shadows in Mind, the fastest of any of my clients. He made it in 6 months. When he started, the day he started working with me, he had no script, no plan, no nothing. And he finished his film in 6 months. And it's now in distribution. So all these films in green are in distribution. So his second film got into distribution recently, and he's working on a third. This film, The Mentor. Moez is also working on another script. This is a documentary. Oh, this one should be. So when they're in red, it means they're in late post-production. So the red ones are on their way to getting distribution. And often you'll see a name and they have more than one project, because they're working on more than one project. And I go through this list and I update it. Leo just started working with me again. This film is in late post-production. So there's always another film coming along. And this list has films that are in late post-production. The pink ones are animation. And as we go further down, there are fewer and fewer films that are already in post-production and more that are just coming along. So now when we get to the bottom of the list, these are my most recent clients and people that I just started working with. This film by Lauren Marsden, I just saw her name, Lauren Marsden, Mamad Lo. Right now, we actually have gone with a bigger budget. She already has about $500,000 in the bank. That's going into production in February. Karen's film is not in distribution yet because she's taking it around. She's flying around the country and going to museums and showing her film in museums. Same with Jimmy. She's not putting it in traditional distribution because right now, in January, she started signing $5,000 contracts to show her film at an organization. Now she's signing 5-figure contracts to show her film. Oh, this is the one that we pitched to CAA Latino, Dead Air. It's actually now got a new name. It's called Live on the Radio. Oops, Live on the Radio. So I go through my list, I update things. And more recently, I also have been getting more big budget films. This particular client here, Michelle Mali Campos, just won a grant for $1.3 million. We don't have money like that in America, guys. Well, actually, I guess it is America. It's Puerto Rico. So all these films are in various stages of production and raising money. So then I thought I would show you a couple of trailers. Now, they don't usually work very well on Zoom, but let's see. Emily, can you tell me if it actually works? I'm going to try. I'm going to give it a shot.
Will do.
Emily is an editor as well as being filmmaker liaison.
What do you think of it?
Who owns it?
Right now, the court owns it, but for the summer, it's ours.
What on earth was this room?
It was a children's nursery, I believe. Playroom, they go older. It's big and airy. Windows, wonderful views. See the gardens and arbors from over here.
Something wrong with this room.
You can't let those folks get the better of you. As soon as we change the papers, will be the door. There's nothing worse for a nervous patient than to give way to these sort of fantasies.
He cares for you so much and truly wants to see you get better. Except he doesn't think there's anything wrong with me. It's a horrid smell. It's coming from the wallpaper, you know. You should burn this house down to the ground. Standing on the floor. It sticks terribly. I can't just enjoy him. His bulbous head and strangling eyes. Hungry, gross, just straight with derision. And I'm getting angry.
It played, but it didn't have all the music underneath it. That's the only thing. Yeah.
That's interesting. So that was a micro budget film, and I like to play that and just see, well, you know, what might you be able to do with a little bit of money, you know, because these were not big budget films by any means, by any means at all. I didn't get this one ready, but now for some reason I decided I want to show this one.
Is it okay if I say something? No, what I do like
For you judging me, and not for what I've done in the past. For what I'm about to do.
Joanne.
I had
Okay,
what-
now you have it up. Okay.
Yeah,
We couldn't see it.
I got careless. Like, I don't deserve more. I don't deserve sympathy. I don't deserve to be here.
Where the hell are you? Why aren't you answering your phone?
Jenna, what is the matter with you?
Someone once told me, you may not be everybody's cup of tea, but you're somebody's shot of whiskey.
Excuse me, ma'am. My car ran out of gas and I left my wallet at home. Could you please spare a couple dollars so I can refuel my vehicle?
I literally have nothing.
What's it gonna take?
Jesus wanted you to have a dog. You would have blessed him with a pole and a leash now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, again, we didn't get any of the music, so it was kind of weird.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, it's never a good idea to try and show any film on.
But
on
Clarissa did have something she wanted to say after the last one, the one previous. So if you want to say something, Clarissa.
Hold on, something else is playing. I just had to turn my Chrome off because I couldn't figure out where that was playing from. Anyway, it's always a bad idea to show things on Zoom, but I just wanted to give you an idea that I have many clients who are getting their films made and getting them distributed and getting them seen around the world, and it's a real possibility, and it's a real
Clarissa wanted to say something after the first, she rose her hand, and then the second one started right over her, so.
Okay, go ahead, Clarissa.
I just thought, or I had I guess a question, and I admired it as well with the first one, is because it is a time period piece. Would you say that, I mean, obviously you can spend anywhere that you want on budget, but like you said, if it's a smaller budget and you create something like that, because that seemed like it was in one location, right? And
the majority was, but the opening shot was a carriage going,
yeah.
Right?
So you had, but it was beautiful because you got to see like the little things, the wallpaper, like the little notes on the side, the texture and material of their clothing. You know, it was, I think it's interesting because it looked like it was meant in that time. And so I guess my question is like, if you're creating on a lower budget, like, do certain films do better, like, or certain genres, like time periods, because of that?
Yeah, we really spent a lot of time talking about that yesterday. So when
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, that's fine. When you get the recording of yesterday, definitely go back and look at it. But for sure, you know, we totally talked about that. And that film, the Yellow Wallpaper, is a very famous story, and it's considered the first feminist writing in the United States. So it was written in 1890. I should know this now. I've seen it a million times, but anyway, it was written in the late 19th century. And if you go and look on IMDb, there are a lot of versions of that film, you know. And so when Kay decided to make their own version of the film, it was done very, very differently. And we talked about genre. And so that film was actually made as a horror film. And if you look at all the other versions of the film, it was never made as a horror film before, even though it is horrifying, you know, the story. It's, you know, she goes insane and kills herself at the end. And so he made it into a horror film. And the funny thing about it is that horror was always there. It was always there as part of the story. And people had not particularly looked at that element, you know. But yeah, I would say that there are lots of easier things to do than to make a period film on a micro budget. Much easier things to do than that. Does anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to read you my last rewrite of my logline, but that's like at the end when you're finished, if you have time.
I'm just trying to get something else to put in the chat. Because we put this list together recently. I had not used it before, but I'm putting in the chat a whole list of trailers. Oh, I can't. I tried to put all the list of trailers, Emily, in the chat. It wouldn't let me put them all, but I thought that might be fun for people to see my clients' trailers. But anyway, so I would love to just close today out by saying, you know, if you would like to make sure that you see your film get made, please set up a time to talk with me about working with me. I have a friend who's a, well, actually, he's now back to being a producer's rep. And he's been working in the industry for a long time, and he also is a teacher, and he writes books and things like that. And he said, you know, he's always saying, you know, Joanne is the real deal. If you work with Joanne, your film will get made. And that's, you know, that's what we do. And it's because I focus on these other things. I focus on the money. Let's get the money and get the film made and get it delivered to a distributor. And so when people start working with me, generally we deliver that film in a year. As I have had a couple of people do it less. That second one, she did it in 7 months. That film, Move Me No Mountain, she did it in 7 months. And I had somebody do it in 6, but that's unusual. Usually it's more like a year. And then we move on to the next one. And right now I have 2 clients who are on their 4th films with me. So we're very serious, although we have a lot of fun, but we're very serious about getting films made, about raising money and making films. So I look forward to speaking to all of you and talking about working together. And please go ahead with any questions that you have, anything to close up today.
Jen, I need to be leaving. Thank you very much for everything. And I'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Does anybody have any questions? Anything they want to ask?
Can I just run that log line by you and see what you think if I tested it?
Sure.
I mean, no, it's not going to be the best because it just happened right now, but the devil cleverly seduces Eve into eating a forbidden fruit, thinking it kill her. In result, he is punished and must join sides with Eve and battle his fate with mankind in order to get back home.
Well, it's at least 1,000 times better. Times better. And as I said, to me, I just see it as, okay, and then what's the next step? And then what's the next step? How do you know, keep working on it? It's always a work in progress, you know? And it's always about, you know, getting it to be as good as it can be and then changing it again. So, you know, just keep working on it. Keep working on it. So who's ready to get their film made?
Well, I, you know, for me and Clarice, like I scheduled a Zoom, like a 30-minute session with you next week. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I look forward to it.
Me too.
Brett, you know, it's really interesting that you have this young baby. I have a couple of clients who just blow my mind. You know, I have this client, Michael, and his film is just about ready to deliver to the distributor. That's his 3rd film. He was the one who, the first 2 films, he didn't think about the idea of paying the investors back. And now he's like, what was I thinking? But whatever, he wasn't thinking of it. So his film is also almost finished. And he was at kind of Picture Lock when they just had their 2nd baby.
Mhm.
And both he and his wife freelance, and now I just read a post that he put on LinkedIn today where he really talks a lot about really how he made it work, how to get the kind of life balance part right,
Very hard.
very hard, very, very hard.
I have two myself, so I have a 6-year-old and a 4-month-year-old.
Oh yeah, great.
And,
I have a client who's on his 4th film with me, right? But when we were working on his first film, he called me out one day and he said, Joanna, there's something I've got to tell you. And I said, oh, okay, And I had already met his daughter. She was 12 years old, lovely, lovely girl. And he said, well, so my wife is about to give birth to twins. I said, oh, congratulations. That's amazing. And he said, and she's leaving me. I was
wow.
like, oh, okay. And she's leaving me with the twins. So I think it was January of that year, they had twins. He became a single father of 3. And I think we finished the film in about July of that year.
Wow.
At one time, I was on set on his second film. And this was the month when, right before COVID, I had 4 feature films in production at the same time. And I was able to go on his set, his film, because it was in Sacramento. So I went up there, and so I was on set of the film, and he told me he was telling me something about his wife. Now his wife wanted to start speaking to him again or something. I was like, okay, great. And he said, Joanne, my personal life is like a suitcase that I have to sit on to keep it closed. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. He's a writer. He's a writer. What can I say? My personal life is like a suitcase I have to sit on to keep it closed. And on Tuesday, we're having a meeting, and he's going to tell me about the 5th film he's going to start making. So, yeah, we have a lot of fun, and people like it so much they keep doing it. So does anybody have any last questions? No? Okay. Well, it has been a pleasure as always. The reason that I coach filmmakers is years ago when I met my business coaches, and I always say, without my business coaches, I would have no business. I would have no clients, nothing. I would have nothing. And when I started working with them, I was actually doing something completely different. And it was all around health and things like that, health and wellness. And they said to me one day, well, Joanne, if you could only do one thing for the rest of your life, if you could only write about one thing, read about one thing, work on one thing, what would that be? I said, oh, filmmaking. It was just so clear. And that was when I realized, and I made the decision that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And that's all I do, right, Emily? What else do I do? When I'm taking time off, I'm watching movies. It's all I do. I work with filmmakers, we raise money, and we make films, and it really works. So it's not the way anybody else works. It's not the way anybody else works who is in the industry. And I've kind of created my own methodology to create a path for filmmakers to actually be successful. And it doesn't look like really anybody else the way they do it, but it works, which is what matters. So I will say good night, goodbye, and it's really been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you all again very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. It was nice to meet everyone as well, and good luck.
Yeah.
Well,
I
as
won't
well.
speak with
Bye.
Jane.
Good luck to everybody too.
As
Take care.
well. Bye.
Speak to you
Happy
soon, Joanne.
Yes.
care.
Making. Bye.